And good morning, my beautiful America. Welcome back to the All American Book Club. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special book author coming to join us here at the All American Book Club. For all of those who have been a part of this show for the past 2 years, you will recognize the name Kimberley Woodhouse. She's a dear friend to the show, but we are going to be telling you about a brand new book that has just come out. And she is the best-selling author, and she transports us into World War II Europe and moving tale of a music and courage book. And I'm going to hold it up for the YouTube channel, A Song in the Dark. You guys, I've been reading this book. Go ahead and just do yourself a favor. Don't even question it. Just go hop over to Amazon right now and buy it. This is an amazing book. We're going to be talking about music, courage, what happened leading into World War II, and this beautiful story. She has over 1 million copies of her books sold thus far. And as she returns with this powerful World War II novel that showcases extraordinary courage of those who use their talents to resist tyranny, A Song in the Dark follows the dangerous mission of a blind concert pianist. So please help me welcome back to the show for the umpteenth time, Kimberley Woodhouse. I'm so glad to have you here. And oh my gosh, I'm in love with this book. Absolutely in love with it. Way before we even were doing this interview, I was texting you as I was reading the advanced reader copy, and it has faith, it has prayers, it brings history full circle, and it has this layers of mission, and again, we talk about the music and courage. So I am going to give you the floor. I open up with the question, what inspired this beautiful book?
Thank you, Eden. Wow. Try not to cry now. Thank you for having me. Again, you are just precious, and I love this show so much. You know, what inspired this book was, and what a lot of people are finding out now as I am talking about the launch of this book, is that it has been on my heart long before I ever had my first contract. So the story has been simmering. I had half of it written for almost decades. And I'm so excited that it is out there now because this is a story of my heart. It's not the story of my heart. It's very high up there because it's a pianist, and that was my background. My whole background, my life was music through college, music major, and it was my English professor who had first said, "Man, you're a really great storyteller." And I just thought, "Oh, good, I did good in English," whatever it was. It went totally over the top of my head. I wasn't even thinking about the compliment that it was. And so when I was pursuing writing, I kept thinking, I have got to talk to him and tell him thank you, for planting that seed, this little music major. And a lot of creatives, a lot of authors are musicians as well, because it's just something that we do. We're that whole creative musical side. So that part of me really wanted to have it out. The other part was I thought, what could a pianist do during this awful time of World War II to combat Hitler and the
Yeah.
Nazis? And how could they do things? And so she is blind.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the book, you find out why and how.
Yeah.
And she uses her Braille music
Oh,
as a secret way of communicating in the book. And I thought that was really brilliant, if I do say so myself. When I came up with that, I was like, oh, that's really fun. So, but over the years, World War II was not its own genre
yeah.
back then when I first wanted to do the story. And I was brand new, I'm a newbie way back when. And they're like, well, let's wait until the right time, for the story. And then the past few years, I've noticed how huge World War II fiction has become, especially Christian fiction.
Yeah.
And I kept praying about it. And I was like, this is the time. I think this is the time. And my editor was like, yes, let's do this one now. And so researching into, I really focused in on the propaganda that Hitler put out there because for us, it's always hindsight is 2020 as we're looking back. We
Mhm.
can see it. But I kept thinking, what about all the people who lived through this time?
Yeah.
How did they not know?
Right.
How did they not see it? why did they stay? You know, the Jews who stayed, why did they stay? All of these different questions that I had. And then seeing this plan that Hitler started in 1933,
Yeah.
long before, we think
Yeah.
of the actual war,
Yeah.
and what he started doing and the propaganda that got out there. I tell you what, I got sick to my stomach reading,
Yes.
and to all the different groups, the way they would change the wording,
Yep.
the focus of whatever they were talking about, just to try to get people to say, oh, look, we're making things better. The
Right.
economy's going to get better. Germany's going to be powerful again because Germans, just like Americans, we're proud to be Americans. The
Absolutely.
German people were very proud to be German, and yet they had been highly ridiculed, and rightly so, right?
Mhm.
Because of things that had been done in World War One. And
Right.
so they felt trampled upon, and you can understand if you really try to get in their shoes. You can understand their belief system and why they wanted something better. And here you have this person coming out saying, I'm going to make everything better.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's very educational, I think, for us to go back
Yes.
and learn from history.
Yeah, well, as I was reading through the book, I kept pulling layers to it because you go through war and you talk about basically the sterilization of what Hitler was doing to those who were disabled. And that is such a theme throughout this book.
Hmm.
But you also bring in Esther and the reminder of the biblical leadership that she did during her time for the Jewish
Yeah.
people. And
Yes.
then you fast forward to today and what we are seeing happen around the world. And it's
Hmm.
not just droplets, it's things that people need to be aware of, whether you're in your
Hmm.
church pews, cozy and happy on a Sunday morning or not.
Yeah.
And so you bring those layers full circle. You bring out the history that needs to be talked about that none of us learned
Hmm.
unless you were a history major. And you bring out this personal journey of a blind pianist who wants to basically save those who are disabled and those who are being sterilized by Hitler.
Hmm.
I mean, really, how did you bring those two pieces together?
I think I had to think about the fact of what Chaisley, she's the heroine, what she has had her entire life because she's blind.
Mhm.
And her blindness is caused by an accident, and she loses family members, which is horrible, and she lives in England.
Mhm.
So she's not real aware at the time of what's actually happening. So
Mhm.
her whole goal has just been to share her music with the world.
Yeah.
And at this point, when we pick up in the story, she is the world's most renowned pianist. So you think about all the people that we know that are famous, right?
Yep.
We had a small, teeny tiny taste of it when we were on national television all over the place after Extreme Makeover and all the different shows. And you realize how people look at you differently, how they treat you differently. And it's like, I'm just Kim, that's who I am. I haven't changed. I would like people to like me for me, but then you kind of get closed off because you have to become private because everybody wants to know
Exactly.
everything. So
Exactly.
with her, her blindness has never been something that has held her back. And as you read the story, you see the progression and how this works because you get to see it on stage with her as a young person after it happens.
Yeah.
And as she progresses, her whole mindset has been she didn't want anybody to feel sorry for her.
Yes.
So she didn't let anybody know. She was one of those that her appearance, was not affected by it. People couldn't tell. She was still the world's most renowned pianist. And she has this wonderful assistant who helps her and understands, her very
Rhythm.
specific things, her rhythm.
Yes.
That's a good way to
Yep.
put it.
Yep.
And so when it comes to her attention,
Mhm.
and she's about to embark on this European tour that's supposed to bring hope to war-torn Europe.
Yeah.
because they're still reeling from World War I and the Great Depression, which is worldwide, at this point.
Yeah.
And so people are hearing about what's happening in Germany and Hitler, but they're kind of not really paying attention because it's hard enough just living, at this time. And for her, when it comes to her attention of what has truly been happening behind the scenes, she feels convicted that, okay, the Lord is calling me to do something, but what? What can I do? What can I do with my position? How can I use this to help others, especially the more she finds out about what Hitler is doing to the disabled and what he had been doing. So this is still pre-war when the
Yep.
story really picks up in 1938, but things that had been happening for 5 years and yet weren't
They were
public
all being covered
knowledge.
up. Right. Right. As I was thinking about how she was basically sending letters between her grandmother and the doctor, and it was all in Braille and different memorizations of codes. It reminded me of the code breakers, obviously
Mm,
during World War II, but
hmm
flipped. Basically, she was creating code to get
hmm
word through Braille. And, I thought that was very creative in your part because one would have thought, how are they going to communicate? Because you even cite in the book that the Nazis were already starting to open up their mail. They were reading through everything.
hmm
Nothing was private anymore.
Yes,
And yet, on the world stage, it was not being talked about. It
not a
was a
bit.
complete cover. It was a complete cover up.
Hmm And
And
even the world governments that
yes,
were saying
yes.
that what they were doing wrong, they kept giving them the benefits of the doubt.
Hmm.
And I get it. I
Yeah.
really do get it because of what I've lived through in my lifetime, what we're seeing happen now. Uh,
Yes.
and so it's just really trying to be open to the truth,
Hmm.
which back then was hard to see, but I think nowadays, I think it's almost even harder for us to find now because there's so much information out there.
And what's actually, it's like
Yes.
verify and then trust.
Hmm
Verify, verify.
Yes.
And it's really hard to because journalism has taken on a whole different, it's
hmm
opinion versus journalism versus
Yes.
accuracy versus
Yes.
Facebook and social and TikTok.
Mhm.
And then you have the whole AI mixed in there. So it
Yes.
really is, it's an attack on our sense of trust. It's an attack
hmm
on
Yes.
um basically, truth versus fiction, and then how do we verify what we actually are seeing? And
hmm
looking at the world stage today, as I was walking through this book, and I would get up every morning and do my devotions and then sit down and like read through it. And for those people of faith who sit down and read this, you're going to find prayers in here that Chaisley, the heroine, prays as she goes into these moments, basically Daniel in the lion's den.
hmm
And those are the moments that we are living in many senses, looking at the world stage today,
hmm
seeing what's happening with our world leaders and what's being covered up from
hmm
human trafficking, sex
Yes.
extortion. All of those things are, it's deterioration of our culture
hmm
and our society because
Yes.
of what's being covered up, or let's just say what's not being reported. Christian persecution,
Yes.
the whole anti-Semitic piece.
hmm And the hatred of the Jewish people, that was so gut-wrenching for me to research. And you don't want to get into the minds of those evil people and the hatred, but you see that the hatred, it was mainly the Jews, yes, but people of color,
Yes.
um, people who were disabled that to them, they thought were unworthy of life. And
Mm-hmm.
I keep thinking, our hatred, our divisiveness that we are dealing with right now, that we keep seeing over and over again, what has happened is people have become so calloused that they are looking at people as unworthy
Yeah.
of having life. And the Bible's very clear that God loves each and every one, and that he sent Jesus
Hmm.
for everyone. And that means even Hitler.
I know, and it's hard to wrap your brain around. Yeah.
That's very hard. And I cried. I don't know how much. I don't know how many boxes of Kleenex I went through during the research of this book, but understanding also the Jewish people and like that question I asked earlier, why did they stay years before when things were getting really ugly?
Yes. Yes. Why did they stay?
Well, a lot of it was because of their heritage, their German heritage. They loved their country. Their families were there. And then a lot of them that had come from Poland, their passports were completely revoked and they couldn't travel. And then they couldn't go back to Poland because Poland couldn't handle, all of the people coming back with the depression. It was just this big mess. All the way around, you have this unending circle of just they're trapped. And so watching a whole lot of interviews of people who had survived and people who had grown up during this time, it was heart just wrenching. And the fact that I felt like it had just split my heart completely in two, feeling what they felt and how they wanted to stay
Yeah.
and they wanted to be seen
Yes.
and to just be allowed to be alive, to be people, and to be recognized as somebody valuable.
Hmm.
And that was taken away, stripped away, not all at once.
Hmm.
It was a little bit at a time. So I think in the reader's note at either the beginning or the end of the book, I had put that, talk about that old adage of the frog being boiled in the pot of water.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we're living it out.
Yes.
And they were living it out during this time. And I really wanted to have the people in the story do their very best to save just even one,
Hmm.
because all the stories that I read of real people who had heroically stood up and done things, a lot of times it was just one at a time, knowing that they couldn't save millions of people at a time, but they could save one at a time. And that to me is powerful. And in the note, I think at the beginning, I had referenced Joel Rosenberg's book, The
Yeah.
Auschwitz Escape.
Hmm. Yes.
Man, if you haven't read that book, you got to read that book. But there's that quote in there when they're, in the concentration camp. And it's not just, why are you a Christian? Not a Jew. Why are you a Christian here?
Yes.
It's why aren't all the Christians here? Because why weren't all of them standing up
Yes.
to help save even one? So I think
Yes.
it's a good challenge for us today to think of.
And as we are wrapping this segment, I want to mention this book, A Song in the Dark, is perfect timing
Mm,
for the aspect of the anniversary of October 7th.
mm,
Your book
yeah.
is perfect timing for that. It's another reminder for all of those who, and you are challenging us as Christians, you are
Hmm.
challenging us who are in the public square, or
Hmm.
those who may be, taking a seat in the back of the pew on Sunday morning saying, "Oh, I can't do anything." But yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
And the conversations and the education and the understanding are the most important things that need to be
Yes.
coming after that step of faith.
Hmm.
Because a lot of those conversations and understanding and education is being taught by Marxist socialism, communism, all of those things at our American universities. They're not learning the truth.
Right.
So,
Which is very hard to digest, thinking that our kids, this next generation, are not hearing the truth. That saddens me.
right, right. I mean, you can even go into New York City and current day, they are seeing this Marxist run who wants to have Sharia law for mayor of New York. But the
Yeah.
ironic thing is, oh, trust fund baby, and all that money came from free market capitalism. okay, how does that roll? And so you see in modern day New York, all of these university students fighting for ISIS and everything in between, but they are not fighting for the Jewish people and the Christian persecution. I mean, it is being covered up by our legacy media,
Mhm,
and we have got to fight it tooth and nail. So, on that note, off
mhm.
my soapbox, but here's the call to action. Kimberley Woodhouse, A Song in the Dark. I'm putting it up one more time for the YouTube people watching in. Go pick it up right now. It's available. Go buy it. Go buy a couple gifts. It is a book that your children, our next generation, needs to understand. So, thank you so much, my award-winning best-selling author friend. I'm so glad that
Thank
you came
you.
to join us this morning.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. For all those who are tuning in, stay tuned for our next segment. We'll be right back.